passed Congressman Bradley Byrne's bill to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
First piece of legislation Mr. Byrne has had considered and passed by a full House of Representatives. And this morning, Congressman Byrne joining us live from our nation's capital. Congressman, good morning. This is being touted as a huge accomplishment for you in your first full term. When you say that you're, quote, proud to champion this legislation.
Yeah, good morning, Kelly. It's good to be with you in Darwin. Yeah, this is a big bill. It's probably the biggest bill we passed in the House this year. One of the biggest bills we'll pass this whole year in the House. So I'm pleased to be the sponsor for it. We had a lot of help on it, but we did it on behalf of the people of Southwest Alabama, on behalf of the people of America who told us last year in those midterm elections they want to see a change in this law. So we're making good on a promise we made to the people of America, and we'll keep pushing it.
Now, the polls have also showed while a lot of people aren't happy with the Affordable Care Act, the majority of Americans, they also say they don't want it to just go away. They want something in its place. And I remember John Boehner standing before the media with several different versions of this. You say you have a new version now. Are you confident it's going to stick and this is the one?
Oh, yes. What my bill does, the bill we passed yesterday, is it not only repeals the law, but it directs the committees in the House that have jurisdiction over this, one of which I serve on, to come up with a different plan that puts the American people in control of their own health care instead of having this very heavy government bureaucracy mandating everything, so that you could literally go on your computer and shop for your health insurance anywhere in America, which you can't do today. And we believe when we do that, we not only empower the American people, empower healthcare consumers, but we think that that will keep healthcare costs down because competition does that with prices. So I'm very confident that we will have something that makes sense for the American people and puts them back in control of their own healthcare, which is not the case today with this law that the President and the Democratic Party passed without any Republican votes several years ago.
Congressman Byrne, I posted a question telling people that you were coming on our show. We do appreciate that. Turning to social media now, Ron Davis 2080 wants to know, instead of repealing Health Care Act, why not make the adjustments they want and move on?
Well, you know, I would love to make adjustments and fix the law, but this law is so incredibly flawed that there's no way to fix it. If we started making changes to it, and I used this metaphor on the floor of the House yesterday, we'd be creating a Frankenstein. You know, take a little piece here, make a little change there. It's not going to work. This is a fundamentally flawed law. And the right thing to do is to admit that it's flawed. The President, all of us admit that it's flawed. Repeal it and put something in its place that does work, that makes sense for the average person in America, instead of something that just basically benefits a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington and some special interests around the country that control a lot of things with regard to health care. So I think this is the right way to go. If I thought we could fix existing law, I'd be all for that. But I've looked at it. A lot of people smarter than I am have looked at it, and there's just no way to fix this law. We've got to replace it.
Congressman, real quickly here, if you go ahead and put something in place and it's not popular with the people, could this be detrimental to 2016 when you're putting a new Republican candidate up for president?
Well, if it was unpopular, you'd be right. But if you look at the polls, and the polls have been pretty consistent for the last several years, people do not like this health care law. And we're getting ready to go into tax season. This will be the first tax season that people will have to deal with all the stuff you've got to put in your tax forms with regard to Obamacare. And we've already been told by the IRS that there are several million people in America that are going to have to pay penalties. When they see those penalties, when it comes out of whatever refund they're expecting from the IRS, or they've got to add it to what they have to write as a check to the IRS, this law is going to become even more unpopular. So I think this is a huge plus for whoever the Republican nominee is for president. And I'm pleased that we're going to be able to ride on this and ride to victory in 2016, because this is a winning issue for the Republican Party.
Along those lines, Joe Healy says repeal is an easy way out. Time for the GOP to move on to a health care plan that addresses the needs of the people. As we look forward, the needs of the people are what, sir?
Well, the biggest need is to put the American people back in charge of their own health care. We've taken away from them the ability to control their health care and given it to a big bureaucracy in Washington. We need to get the bureaucracy in Washington out of the way so that the average American health care consumer, the average person, can sit down with their doctor and decide what they need for their own health care instead of the government deciding that for them, and also allow them to go out there and shop for whatever health insurance plan they want with the money they want to pay for it. instead of having this very small set of options that we're getting through these healthcare insurance exchanges, which, by the way, have been very unpopular with the people in Southwest Alabama. I had over 30 town hall meetings last year, and everywhere I went, there were person after person after person would come up and say, please repeal this law. We've got hundreds of letters and emails from people throughout Southwest Alabama demanding that we repeal this law. If we put them back in charge of their health care, they're going to be happy, they'll be healthier, and America's going to be a better country.
Okay, and real quickly, Congressman, real quickly, can you tell me about the bridge? Governor saying that it's only going to rely upon federal funding. He has to have it from the feds. Is that possible? Real quickly.
Well, it's possible. We're going to get 80% of the funding from the feds, but there's going to have to be 20% state and local match. Now, how we do that, the governor and I and other people are working on. I feel confident we'll get this worked out.
All right, thank you.
Congressman Byrne, thank you so much for joining us from our nation's capital. We appreciate hearing directly from you. Have a great Wednesday. Coming up.